Have you ever been in a conversation with someone who's smiling and saying all the right things, yet something in your gut tells you something isn't quite right? That strange disconnect between what you're hearing and what you're feeling isn't just paranoia. It might be your intuition detecting what Carl Jung called the shadow at work. Jung, one of the most influential psychologists in history, developed the concept of the shadow as a fundamental aspect of human psychology. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves we reject, deny, or push into the unconscious, the qualities we consider unacceptable or too painful to acknowledge. But here's the fascinating thing about the shadow. Just because we push these aspects away doesn't mean they disappear. Instead, they often emerge in our interactions with others, particularly through projection. Today, I want to explore how to recognize when someone might be harboring negative feelings toward you, even while maintaining a friendly facade. These signals can be incredibly subtle, but learning to identify them can protect your emotional well-being and help you navigate complex relationships with greater awareness. Before we dive in, I want to emphasize that this isn't about becoming paranoid or suspicious of everyone around you. Rather, it's about developing psychological awareness and trusting your instincts when something feels off. With that understanding, let's explore 8 revealing signs that someone might secretly resent you, despite their outward friendliness. The first sign to watch for is contempt disguised as humor. We've all experienced it. Someone makes a joke at your expense that cuts a little too deep. When confronted, they quickly respond with, "I was just kidding," or "Don't be so sensitive." This form of communication allows a person to express hostility while maintaining plausible deniability. Jung would explain this behavior as a classic shadow projection. When someone repeatedly targets specific aspects of your personality or life choices through humor, they're often revealing their own insecurities or unresolved issues. The topics they joke about most frequently can offer insight into their own psychological blind spots. For example, a colleague who constantly makes jokes about your ambition or career achievements might actually be struggling with feelings of inadequacy or fear of failure. Rather than acknowledging these feelings within themselves, they project them outward and attempt to diminish your success through seemingly harmless humor. What distinguishes genuine playful teasing from shadow-driven contempt is consistency and impact. Friendly banter feels good to both parties, while shadow-driven jokes leave you feeling diminished, uncomfortable, or defensive. Pay attention to your emotional response. Your body often recognizes hostility before your conscious mind does. The second sign involves subtle sabotage. This can be particularly difficult to identify because each individual instance might seem like an honest mistake or oversight. However, when a pattern emerges, it's worth paying attention to. Someone harboring unconscious resentment might forget to pass along important information, give you misleading advice, or create small obstacles that hinder your progress. These actions are often small enough to seem insignificant in isolation, but create meaningful interference when they accumulate. Jung would describe this behavior as a manifestation of the shadow's desire to undermine perceived threats. The person may not be fully conscious of their motivation to sabotage you. Their unconscious mind is simply seeking to protect their ego from the discomfort your success or qualities evoke in them. Consider the colleague who consistently forgets to include you in important emails, the friend who gives you questionable advice before an interview, or the family member who undermines your goals with discouraging, realistic perspectives. While any single instance might be coincidental, a pattern suggests something deeper at play. The third sign to watch for is constant one-upmanship or competitive behavior. When someone can't let you have a moment of pride or accomplishment without asserting their own superiority, shadow dynamics may be at work. You share good news, and they immediately respond with their own greater achievement. You mention a challenge you're facing, and they face something far worse. This persistent need to outshine you speaks to deep insecurity and possibly resentment. Jung observed that we often project our shadow onto people who embody qualities we either reject in ourselves or feel we cannot achieve. The constant competitor may be wrestling with feelings of inadequacy or insecurity. Your successes trigger their shadow aspects, prompting them to reassert their self-worth through comparison. The healthiest relationships allow each person to shine in their own right. There's joy in each other's successes and compassion for struggles, without the need for constant comparison. When this balance is consistently absent, it may signal shadow-driven resentment. The fourth sign involves inconsistent or superficial support. People who secretly harbor negative feelings often struggle to provide genuine encouragement or assistance when you need it most. Their support feels hollow, comes with strings attached, or mysteriously disappears at crucial moments. You might notice they're enthusiastic about your plans in public settings, but discourage you in private conversations. Perhaps they offer support, but in ways that aren't actually helpful. Or maybe they're simply absent during your most significant challenges or celebrations. Jung would explain this as a shadow creating a disconnect between their conscious desire to appear supportive and their unconscious resistance to your success or happiness. This internal conflict results in support that feels incomplete or insincere. Pay attention to patterns rather than isolated incidents. Everyone has moments when they can't be fully present or supportive due to their own life circumstances. However, if someone consistently fails to show up for you in meaningful ways while maintaining the appearance of caring, their shadow might be influencing their behavior. The fifth sign involves control disguised as care. This can be one of the most confusing dynamics to identify because it often comes wrapped in expressions of love and concern. Someone influenced by shadow resentment might try to direct your choices or manage your life while framing it as looking out for your best interests. They might offer unsolicited advice about how you should live, work, dress, or behave. They question your decisions, second-guess your judgment, or express disappointment when you don't follow their guidance. After these interactions, you often feel less confident in your own abilities rather than supported. Jung understood that the need to control others frequently stems from unacknowledged fear and insecurity. When someone tries to manage your life, they may actually be projecting their own fear of chaos or uncertainty. By controlling you, they create an illusion of stability that temporarily soothes their own anxiety. The key distinction between genuine care and controlling behavior lies in how it affects your sense of agency. Does this person's guidance expand your possibilities or restrict them? Do they support your autonomy or undermine it? Does their advice empower you or diminish you? These questions can help you identify shadow-driven control. The sixth sign to watch for involves backdoor criticism and gossip. Someone harboring shadow resentment may avoid direct confrontation while speaking critically about you to others. This behavior allows them to express negative feelings without taking responsibility for them or risking conflict. You might notice subtle changes in how mutual friends or colleagues treat you. Perhaps you hear secondhand comments or discover misrepresentations of things you've said or done. These patterns suggest someone is constructing a negative narrative about you behind the scenes. Jung would view this behavior as a classic shadow projection. Rather than acknowledging their own negative qualities or addressing their concerns directly, the person projects these aspects onto you through gossip. This allows them to preserve their self-image as good, while still expressing the negative emotions they've disowned. What makes this sign particularly damaging is its potential to affect your broader social connections and reputation. While direct conflict at least allows for resolution, backdoor criticism creates invisible obstacles in your relationships with others. The seventh sign is an inability to celebrate your successes. People genuinely on your side find joy in your achievements and growth. Those harboring shadow resentment, however, often struggle to show genuine happiness when things go well for you. You might notice they change the subject when you share good news, offer backhanded compliments, point out potential problems with your success, or somehow manage to make your achievement about themselves. There's a palpable lack of warmth or enthusiasm that leaves you feeling deflated rather than celebrated. Jung would explain this as the shadow's reaction to perceived threats to self-worth. When someone has to reconcile with their own feelings of inadequacy or failure, your success can trigger painful comparisons. Rather than sitting with this discomfort, they attempt to diminish your achievement to protect their ego. What makes this sign particularly revealing is its contrast with genuine relationships. People who have done their own shadow work can celebrate others wholeheartedly because they don't view your success as a commentary on their worth. When this capacity is consistently absent, it often signals unprocessed shadow material. The eighth and perhaps most subtle sign involves nonverbal cues and microexpressions. While words can be carefully controlled, our bodies often reveal what we're truly feeling through involuntary signals that last just fractions of a second. You might notice fleeting expressions of annoyance or contempt when you speak. Perhaps their smile doesn't quite reach their eyes, or there's a momentary tightening around their mouth when you share good news. Maybe they physically distance themselves, cross their arms defensively, or avoid eye contact during certain topics. Jung understood that the unconscious mind communicates through symbols and signals, often bypassing our conscious control. When someone's words and body language consistently contradict each other, it's usually the nonverbal cues that reveal the truth. The shadow speaks through these small betrayals of the body. Learning to read these subtle signals requires practice and attention. It's not about analyzing every gesture or expression, but rather noticing patterns and trusting your intuitive response. Our bodies are often more perceptive than our conscious minds when it comes to detecting incongruence or potential threats. Now that we've explored these 8 signs, you might be wondering what to do if you recognize them in your relationships. Here are some thoughtful approaches to consider. First, remember that shadow projection is universal. We all have a shadow, and we all project at times. Recognition of these dynamics doesn't mean the person is bad or intentionally harmful. They may be completely unaware of their behavior's roots. Understanding this can help you respond with compassion rather than reactivity. Second, check your own shadow. Before assuming someone else's behavior is entirely about their issues, examine whether you might be projecting as well. Are there qualities in yourself you're not acknowledging that might be influencing how you perceive others? This self-reflection is essential to Jung's approach to psychology. Third, create appropriate boundaries. If you identify consistent patterns of shadow-driven behavior that impact your well-being, it's reasonable to create protective boundaries. This doesn't require confrontation or accusation, simply limiting exposure to situations or dynamics that feel consistently negative. Fourth, consider direct, compassionate communication when appropriate. Sometimes naming what you're experiencing can create space for genuine dialogue. I've noticed that when I share good news, the conversation quickly shifts to other topics. I'd love to be able to celebrate things with you. Is something making that difficult? This approach invites reflection rather than accusation. Finally, focus on relationships that feel mutually supportive and genuine. While understanding shadow dynamics can help navigate difficult relationships, it's equally important to nurture connections where you feel truly seen and appreciated. These relationships provide contrast that makes shadow projections easier to identify. Jung believed that recognizing the shadow, both in ourselves and others, is essential to psychological growth. When we understand these unconscious forces, we gain freedom from their power over us. We can respond with awareness rather than reactivity, and perhaps even help others become more conscious of their own shadow material. The signs we've explored today aren't meant to label others or justify cutting people out of your life. Instead, they offer a framework for understanding complex relational dynamics through the lens of depth psychology. The goal isn't to judge, but to see more clearly, and perhaps to approach both ourselves and others with greater compassion. Remember that we're all works in progress, doing our best to navigate our conscious and unconscious motivations. By bringing awareness to the shadow, we can begin the transformative work of integration that Jung saw as central to becoming whole, authentic human beings. I'd love to hear your experiences with any of these signs in the comments below. Have you noticed these patterns in your relationships? How have you responded to them? Your insights might help others who are navigating similar dynamics. If you found value in this exploration of Jung's shadow concept, please consider subscribing to the Wisdom of Human Nature for more content that delves into the depths of human psychology and personal growth. And if you know someone who might benefit from understanding these dynamics, sharing this video could offer them valuable perspective. Thank you for joining me in this journey into the shadow aspects of human relationships. By bringing awareness to these often unconscious patterns, we take an important step toward greater psychological freedom and more authentic connections. Until next time, I wish you insight, compassion, and the courage to face both light and shadow on your path.